Hey, g'day. In this video, we're going to talk about the emotional component that goes along with singing songs. You notice sometimes you may go to sing something, but it doesn't translate. So this video, we're going to break it all down. One of the common things that happens when I'm coaching people is they'll be singing okay and they're in tune and they're in time and everything seems to be working, but it doesn't get me here. It doesn't translate in a way that you're left with the experience of going, oh my God, just what happened there, it's just an amazing thing. It's just singing. So the first thing that we need to establish is, well, what's music? To me, music is a performance art. Everybody knows that. So then the question is, well, what's art? Well, to me, art is the ability to connect something emotionally to somebody. So I'll give you an example. You walk into a beautiful cathedral, you walk into some architecture somewhere like an art center or something, and you look up at the ceiling and you look around and it's like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. So that's what that is. You're having an emotional reaction to something that you're visually looking at and experiencing and walking into. You can have that experience when you're having a great meal. The meal gets presented, you pick up your phone, you take a photo of it, you dive in with your fork, and you're suddenly having an experience with the food that was prepared in such a way that you probably couldn't have prepared it at home, or certainly if you could have, you probably wouldn't have taken the time to do that. That's why we go to restaurants, partly. And then even in the restaurant, you've still got that other component of the service and the environment and the atmosphere and all that other stuff, yeah. So you can see that with beautiful art, you know what, not even beautiful art, any art will generate an emotional response. That's its intention. And music's no different. So when I'm coaching people around this element of emotional stuff in the song, the first thing that I make them aware of, and this is what I'm saying to you today, is that we've got to get from the voice touching the ears to the heart communicating with the heart. And it's a completely different experience when you hear it. That's why when you see professionals in the studio, they're certainly in a room where no one else can see them. The only thing that we're going to be experiencing is the audible component of that recording, yet they'll still be expressing the song with all the hand animations and things that they're doing that's necessary for them to generate the performance required to translate that through the recording such that when we hear it, we hear the emotional component. So the example that I use with people is it's like the racing car driver, where you're learning how to drive a car, and then once you've learned how to drive the car, you learn how to drive it faster, and then you learn how to go around a track, and then you learn how to go around the track faster. You couldn't put a novice, a learner driver, straight into a race. We all know that. But the reason why we couldn't do that is because that learner driver is too focused on the gear stick and the mechanics of the mechanics of driving the car. It's like the steering, the mirrors, we all know that when we learn to drive, right? But there reaches a point where that stuff becomes invisible, and then what we can do then is we can focus on the road, we can focus on the other traffic and road maps and all that sort of stuff. And that's why when we're learning how to drive, here in Australia we have to do 120 hours before we can go for our probationary license. But as a learner driver, we put up plates on the windows to let people know that we're probably focused on the car more than we're focused on them, and to watch out for them a little bit. So that's the same with the voice. So we need to get our technique in. We need to get that so that it's solid. And then once that's solid, it needs to be practiced so much that it just becomes invisible. And then we can move on away from just thinking in our head about the technique, and we can start to express the song. Said another way, we can forget about the car and we can just start racing on the racetrack. Okay, so that leads me on to the next thing. If that's the case, then how do we translate our voice from a technical voice where we're focused on all those things into more emotional voice where that becomes the priority for us? That's my central heating unit just gone on, so hope it doesn't make too much noise for you. Good timing. Anyway, I'll keep shooting this out. When you look at a song, there's always three components to it. So there's the lyric, and what most people do when they first start learning a song with their lyric, what they do is they learn the song and then they copy the original artist. So that's how they generate their emotional component in the song, but that doesn't necessarily connect with them. So because they're not connected to it, it's potentially harder for them to connect with their audience, because they're really just painting by numbers, if I could say it like that. And probably 99% of the time when somebody learns a song, they don't actually spend the time to actually read the lyrics and find out what the song's about. I know that because I asked them, they'll be singing it, and I'll say to them, what's this song about? And they won't be able to say anything. They'll be like, well, I don't know. And they could have been learning it for a few weeks. So now, instantly, that highlights the disconnect that I'm talking about, how there's the lyric, but they haven't actually learnt what the intention of the song is about, so they don't know how to create the song from first principles. They're just copying and pasting what they'd already heard. So therefore, how can we do that? Well, this is how you do it. Recognize that with every lyric, there's an intention of the writer. So the writer sat down with a blank piece of paper and pen and a guitar and a keyboard or something, and they decide they're going to write a song. And they might be thinking of a situation, or they might be thinking of a person. We've all tried. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you may have tried to write your own song, or at least come up with an idea driving around in the car. And then they develop that idea into something that we then know as a song. But that song goes through a procedure because the writer has an intention that they want to convey. So it might be a song of heartbreak at the moment. It's that driving through your town, whatever that song is. Great song. Because it resonates with a lot of people. It's like they get the song. What's that song called? Hang on, I'm gonna try. Yeah, driver's license. So with driver's license, it touches the person's heart because they can relate to it. There's a heart-to-heart communication. And certainly when you hear Olivia sing it, it's very, very emotional. She's conveyed that successfully, very successfully. That's why it's had 28 million views in a month. And that's only on one channel, 28 million in a month. Very popular. So, okay, so now we've got the lyric and we've understood that. So then what we do with that is we discover what the correct emotion for that would be. And for every song that's different. So clearly Driver's License is a song of heartbreak. But equally you could have songs that were designed for the nightclubs, which is party songs designed for happiness and joy. So I'm not speaking about just one emotion where that emotion is always about sadness or heartbreak. You know, the tearjerkers, I'm not speaking about that. I'm talking about clearly identifying whatever the emotion is for that song. Okay, so then you look at Driver's License. If you look at the lyrics of that for a sec. I don't even need to type this in. I've put so many people through this song. Everybody wants to sing it at the moment. Got my driver's license last week. Talked about. You were so excited for me to finally drive up to your house, but today I drove through the suburbs crying because you weren't around. You're probably with that blonde girl who always made me doubt. She's so much older than me. She's everything I'm insecure about. And I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. And I just can't imagine how you could be so okay now that I'm gone. Guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me, because you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. All right, so clearly there's an intention of that lyric. It's pretty straight up. All right, well, now we know that the song's about heartbreak. We know the intention of it is to write about this person that she's feeling loss over. So now the next question is then, what's the emotional components of that? What are the correct emotions for that? Well, clearly it's not happiness. Loss, sadness, hurt, jealousy, vulnerability, what else is there? If you can think of any others, put it in the comments. And so now that you've read through the lyrics and you clearly understand what the song is about, you can now clearly define what the emotion is that you need to put into your voice when you sing it. See? Now, this song's a little bit different because this is obvious. This is so obvious what this song's about. It's very hard to miss it, even when you're singing it. I think that's one of the things that makes the song so successful, because there's absolutely nothing ambiguous about it. And for many of us, at some point in our life, we've experienced that feeling. So it's very easy for people to resonate with it. And it's a great song. So that's how it happens. Behind the lyric is an intention of the writer. And based on that intention of the writer is an emotion that we then have to dig out and find. And not all songs are as obvious as that. Some we've got to discover them. And then the final thing that I'll just talk about very quickly today about getting the emotion into a song is the concept of vulnerability. Now, what normally happens is when somebody's learning a song, we'll kind of half go there, or 3/4 go there maybe. But when you hear a song like Olivia sang in Driver's License, but when you hear any song that's got deep emotional content, even anger songs, rock songs, happy songs, not just heartbreak ones, there's this deep emotion that they can go to. There's a vulnerability that they take themselves to. And I think that's one of the things that really defines a true artistic vocal from one where it just sounds like a nice voice that's just singing. Putting a bow around this whole thing, that vulnerability of being able to go there emotionally is what ultimately takes a voice to the ear, from that to the heart. And then that way, when we're listening to somebody's performance, it's like we get it in the heart. How do you do that? Well, one way to do that is to be more dynamic with your emotion. So what that means is the quieter stuff becomes a little bit quieter than you probably would sing it. And then when you get to the chorus, you sing it with a little bit more emphasis than you may have considered. And so instead of the dynamics being here, they're now like that. And that can happen within the line too, probably for another video. But today that's enough. To summarize, if you haven't got this already, I guess you could watch it back. But to summarize, when you're learning a song, you need to know the technique well enough that you don't have to think about it. Go through the lyrics, discover what the intention of the writer is. From that intention, speculate on what the emotion is. And then from that emotion, put that into the song with vulnerability. One other final tip that I should have mentioned. An easy way to get that emotion going, for instance, Driver's License, is to imagine somebody who makes you feel like that. And then when you're singing that song, sing with that person in your mind. And what that will do is it will help convey that emotion because you're instantly there. You're already there mentally. Hope this has helped. Like, subscribe. I'm doing these at least once a month. Try and boost them up as I'm feeling my way through this whole thing of YouTube videos. Not quite there yet. Still learning about it. Still working it out. See ya.